Hey everybody, it's Todd with Sweet Tea Guitars. Thank you so much for stopping by the channel and welcome to my life. All right, you guys, come on into the shop. Let's get back working on this guitar. So here we are. I got the template mounted up on the front with the alignment pins. What we're going to do, my truss rod nut slot comes right up against the P90 route. That leaves less than a 32nd of wood between the wall of the P90 route and the front side of that nut slot. I don't want that. So here's what we're going to do. While I've still got these two pins in this body, I want to mark out these holes, the mounting holes and the string through ferrule holes, and let's mark out this bridge pickup, and then we'll pop these pins out of this body, and I'll pull this template down this way to move this P90 a little away from that truss rod adjustment nut route that we've got in the front. I'm not going to move it very much because I don't want to affect the tonal qualities that you get by putting the neck pickup right up against the neck. We'll still have a really nice warm chunky tone in that neck position from the fact that it's a P90, and we're also not going to move it that far, just enough to give it 6 or 7 millimeters of space between the two walls. Let's mark out these holes first. So I'm going to take my little center punch pins that I've got here, and we're just going to run those down through these holes. I've double checked to make sure my center line's in the right spot. It is. And let's just mark out these holes here. There's our 4 screw holes, and here are our 6 ferrule holes. So we're good with that. Let's trace out the shape of this bridge pickup here, just so we know where to hog this material out when we go over to the drill press with it. Let's go ahead and mark our 2 control potentiometer locations. I'm going to put one here and one here, one volume, one tone. We're all marked out. Everything's good to go. Let's pop this template off of here. We've got our dimples for our mounting holes and our string through ferrules here in the body. We've got our pickup route drawn, and at least so we can reference that to go hog this out on the drill press. I've got my control holes marked, and all I'm going to do on those control holes is drill a pilot. This is one thing that I've noticed on the previous builds that I've done. If you go ahead and drill that hole to full size, and you have to recess that hole at the back to get that potentiometer to set up close enough to where you can get a screw on the front of it, the Forstner bit does not want to ride in that 6 millimeter hole you've drilled. So I got a 15 millimeter Forstner bit here. We'll get up in these 2 round corners right here, these rounded areas. And anywhere that we can use this 15 in these corners, we'll get those drilled out first, and then I'll hog out the material in the center of this thing. We'll go to 21.5 millimeters deep. So I'm going to lower this table down and just make myself a reference mark on the side of this bit. So let's come to 22 millimeters. That's right there. We'll throw a piece of tape on there just as a reference to let us know how deep we are. And then once we cut the first hole, instead of using the drill bit for reference, I'll actually set the depth stop on this thing so we can be a little bit more accurate. I don't want the point of the Forstner bit. I find that unattractive. We're going to mark this about 2 millimeters shy of that line, and I will route that remaining distance with the router. We'll scratch it and just go down to our tape depth. you know, at this point in the build, we need to start being mindful of all those kind of things that can cause us accidental marks and gouges and things like that on our body. We don't want any of that kind of stuff happening here, so, you know, we just want to be careful. We're just going to chisel out this area right here of any of these little sharp corners that are left. So I got my Narex 12 millimeter. It seems to be my go-to chisel for this kind of stuff. So we're kind of cleaned up down in there. I can still see my outline, so we're good. I've got the P90 drawn out already. What I did was I came 7 millimeters this way so I could have plenty of thickness on the wood between the end of this and the start of this route. Let's move over here and get the P90 route hogged out for too while we're at this state. One thing you can't concern yourself too much with when you're building guitars is how big of a mess you're making. All right, let's pan down and I'll chisel this stuff out here just like we did in the bridge pickup location. Again, all I'm doing is getting the sharp points off of here. Just like that. That should be good. We've got our holes hogged out for our pickups. While we're set up over on the drill press, I think it's probably a good idea if we just go ahead and drill at least pilot holes for everything else that we need holes for on the front of our body. So let's get our mounting screw holes drilled in first. So there's our first hole drilled in. It looks nice. It wound up dead center. I'm really happy. Let's go to number 2. Okay. All right, let's go back over to the drill press and get these ferrule locations drilled in. Let it scratch the surface all the way through. All right, you guys, let's get this bridge pickup routed in. All right, let's do it. All right, you guys, I forgot to pan down and let you guys watch, which it was pretty much uneventful. Bridge pickup routed. We got a nice clean wall. Everything looks really good. I'm happy with that. All right, well there that is. That was easy. So there's our 2 controls right here, and I used the placement that Steve gave me. He's got placements for up to 5 knobs on this thing. You've got the 3 in a row in case you want a volume and 2 tones or vice versa. And then he's also got 2 more back here for toggle switches, or if you want 2 volumes, 2 tones, you know, whatever you want to do. He gives you that option on this template. Let's get this template made for this back cover. So what I want to do is fire up the bandsaw. I want to cut this out so we've got a more manageable template size. All right, you guys, so what I decided to do instead of making all that mess over on the drill press, I'm gonna use my coping saw and cut out most of this shape. The saw wants to bind up because it melts it. You just gotta go slow. I've got this set up as a pull. That's what I've been left with. I've got a nice shape scratched on there though that I can deal with. We're gonna put an 80 grit drum on the spindle sander. We'll hook the vacuum up, and that will be so much cleaner doing it this way than using the, trying to use the router. Let's turn the vacuum on and sand this thing out here. I think this is gonna be the way to do this. All right, you guys, I'm gonna work on this for a few minutes. We'll pick back up when I get close, okay? Hey everybody, it's the next day. So today is Sunday, February the 20th. We're gonna keep going on this build. Last night, I kept on working for a little while after I stopped filming. I didn't figure you guys wanted to sit there and watch me sand this thing into place. It took me literally about 2 hours to make this template. So here's the deal. I've got a Strat template that's got a back cavity route. You'll see how that cavity is done. It's the one with the little tab sticking off the side of it for the screw holes. Well, I'm going to use magnets on my cover plate. I will use this to route the actual cavity part. I needed a shelf template for that. What I did was I used this cover that came with that template, that rear routing template, to make this template, which is going to route the shelf. And man, I am really happy with the job I've been able to do. So that's how well that thing fits in there. The way that template's designed, that gets awful thin right there. I'll use a larger diameter bearing on the bit that I cut the recess for. Once I get that down inside the cavity far enough, then what we can do is come back and use the sides of that as our guide. So there's what we got. I got a 3/4 inch bearing on a 1/2 inch diameter bit. That's gonna increase our shelf size. So let's pan down here and I'll show you guys what I mean. All right, so right there, that's where I'm gonna put it. Let's get some masking tape put on here. I'm gonna put one big wide piece down this other side and we'll run it right off the side of our canary strip. Burnish it down. Let's just put one right here. I mean, we just don't want it to move is really the key. This is gonna get us to a point to where this thing's gonna start looking like a guitar. It actually looks really good. And I brought it slightly that way to give us a little bit more meat down here when we go to cut that shelf. I don't want to carry it too far away because we got our jack to contend with as well. There's no time like the present. Let's mask up. We're going to get this cavity routed. I went ahead and hogged out all this with a 35mm Forstner bit. Instead of putting that 3/4 bearing on this 1/2 inch router bit, I put a 5/8 bearing because I don't really need that much more room, and that'll keep me from having to recut these corners with a different bit. So that's why I did that. All right, everybody, what we got to do now is flatten out the back of this body before I sand it, and I want to get this flat before I route this recess for this thing in because it's going to change the depth. That canary is just beautiful. I got my sander ready. We got 80 grit loaded up in it. All right, I'm going to mask up. Let's get to sanding. I got 80 grit on the sander. Oh, it feels really super good. We got our back cavity routed. Turned out really nice. We got a nice straight line down the edge of this canary. I drew myself a reference line down the seam there, so I'll have some place to line the shelving cavity up with. What we're going to do now is I'm going to mount up this template that we made, and we'll get the shelf for our cavity cover cut in the back of here. So I'm just going to lay this thing down on here. I've drawn out a few lines. I'm going to put this as close as I can over here on the edge of where this template's going to be. Let's get some super glue. I'm not going to use activator again. No need to put an excessive amount of super glue on there. I'm just going to get this lined up best I can before I drop it into place. It looks pretty good. I've got a 3/8 inch Unico 1/4 inch depth of cut router bit in here. It is a pattern bit. There is a bearing. I'm really happy with how that felt. The moment of truth, you guys. How about that? What more could you want? That pops right in there. That is excellent. While we've got this down in this hole here, let's take a punch and mark out where these screws will go. Not screws, but magnets. After we get through cutting this cover, we can use this same template to mark out our magnet locations on the back of the cover plate itself. We've got a shelf, a nice cavity. I need to drill the recesses in here. All right, let's move over to the bandsaw and get this padute cut like we need it. We're just gonna draw out around this shape here. Make sure we've got a nice outline all the way around. Let's just crank it up and go with it. I mean, that's a pretty decent cut. I got it set up really nice so it doesn't wander. Okay, what we need to do now is reset up this fence. We'll take a measurement on how deep our shelf cut is on the in the body, and let's get us a thickness. I don't need it to be perfect. We're at about 5.5 millimeters. So I'm gonna cut this at about 6 1/4 roughly. This should take a minute. You know, this saw's not exactly a resaw machine. All right, you guys, the camera died right in the middle as I was getting ready to do that. Sorry about that. Basically what I've done was I went ahead and split this into 3 pieces. This is the thicker of the 2 that I cut. I'm gonna super glue and masking tape that piece to my router table, and I'll take my number 4 plane and we'll get this surfaced. I need to pay attention to Master's teachings on this. You got to shift your weight. I got a tendency to bear down too much on the front of the plane. I will say this, a hand plane is a pretty fun tool to use. I'm so glad I discovered, or I'm so glad Master discovered these for me. I don't know if we could ask for it to be any better than that. We're going to attach this template right here to this board. Draw it out first, and we'll cut it out on the bandsaw just like we always do, to within a couple of millimeters of the line. Okay, let's pan down and draw this thing out real quick. There we go. We'll just draw out around this and cut it out. All right, let's get this cut out real quick. This thin piece of wood shouldn't take very long. All right, the beginnings of our cover plate. Let's get this lined up. Get our black marker. Mark the edge of our tape line. Piece of tape. Back of the template. Burnish it. Super glue. So there we are, attached. I'm going to use the top bearing on this. We've got straight grain padute, so it shouldn't be too big of an issue. All right, exciting times. I'm really happy with how that went. Let's get our body and let's check our fit. 1 control cover. That is a well-fitting cavity cover. Now I'm going to take a gander and see where I may be having trouble with it getting too tight in that cavity. I think I already spot where our problem is. It's right up in here. So we'll sand a little bit on this. All right, you guys, so I ordered 100 5mm magnets on Amazon. These are like, I don't know, they were cheap. They were like $4 or something like that. They're surprisingly strong to be this small. I specifically ordered these to use to hold my covers on. I've got the 35mm Forstner bit already in the drill press, so I think what we'll probably do, drop the press down and go ahead and recess out for those potentiometers. I'm just going to go till I see the Kaya. So I just recessed and clearanced out that hole, so we've got room for our potentiometer post. All right, let's get this second one done. Because even though this is inside a cavity, I still want it to look nice when you open the back of this thing. So we got our 2 recesses drilled in there. I'm really happy with how that went. One more thing we could do that will go ahead and get this done before we drill these holes in. Let's go ahead and cut these tabs off. All right, the tabs are gone. Starting to look like a guitar now for sure. So what we need to do now is mount up this 5mm drill bit and drill these holes for these magnets. These things are 4.97mm around. My drill bit's 4.95, but I think it's going to be close enough so I can force them down in there. We'll put a little spot of super glue in the bottom and all will be well. Let's measure the thickness. I think they're 3mm is what I think they are. 2.75. They don't need to be proud. They don't need to be inset. They need to be 2.75. All right. There we go. Holes drilled. Let's drill these in. Then we'll install these magnets and we'll be good to go. Let's get these installed. I'm just going to put a spot of super glue in the bottom of each one of these holes. We'll do the body first. This is really cool. This is the first time I've used magnets for a cover. I'm doing a lot of first on this guitar and I'm giving it away. That makes me feel awesome. I put the magnets in the cover upside down and they repelled the cover plate. But as you can see, I got that worked out. All I did was heated the magnets up per Ben Crow's suggestion this morning with a soldering iron. I took a small 3mm chisel, went down inside there, and I'll show you guys what I did. I got a little bit of filling to do, but I didn't mess it up too bad. I'll sand that all clean once I fill it. But as you can see, no problem. We're good. I got to make a little dimple in the body, probably right here, so you can stick your finger in there and pull that out. Or I can sand a little bevel down inside that ridge to where you can press on it and it just pops out. That's probably what I will do. All right, these string through ferrules, they've got a lip on the top edge of them right there. All right, you can see that now. They've got a lip on the top edge. I don't want that lip to be above the surface of the body. I want that inset. So what I need to do is drill a hole the size of that, and then we'll chamfer the top edge of that hole to allow this to recess itself down inside the body. I'm coming up with 8.06mm. On this drill bit, I'm coming up with 7.89. I want these pretty much at the exact depth they need to be. It's not going to bother for them to be a 0.5 millimeter deeper, but we don't want to go much more than that because it will make stringing this guitar extremely difficult. If you have too much of a gap between the bottom of your string through ferrule, and where your actual string size hole starts at the bottom of that recess, your string edge can get caught on that, and it can be a nightmare to get that thing to go through. They are at 8.06 millimeters deep total. So we'll go say 8.10 or 8.15. It looks pretty centered. There we go, you guys. I'm going to take my hand drill. I think we'll try the countersink. I've seen prettier holes, but once we get these sunk down in there, we'll be fine. We're going to run the sander across this real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and install these things. All right, so how I'm going to do this is I'm going to take our little center punch. That one fits nicely, and we're just going to drive these down in there. Just like so. I'll take my mallet, make sure we're square. Now, if I were spray finishing this body, I would not do this right now. But since we are oil finishing and hand rubbing this finish, this is not going to cause us a problem. There we go. Now we're below the surface. I'll double check that by running my straight edge. All right, so that still leaves me a little bit of sanding room. I may expose a little of the poplar just right here. We'll soft edge the whole thing first, and then if I still feel like we need to copy this, exposing this poplar down on this side, we will. I like it how it is now, but I think, I really love this look, that two-tone look it gives you. I just want to taper this in just to show a little bit of that poplar in this little lower belly area. I mean, we want enough of it exposed that it doesn't look like it was an accident. That's all I'm talking about doing. It gives us that soft S shape. I really like that. Now, I think to make everything just a little bit more fluid, I think I'll bring this tail or that bevel just a little bit further up the body, just to kind of trail it off a little bit more. What this piece right here did, in my opinion, is give us a little bit more symmetry. And you guys can tell me, but I think, I think that's what happened. I'm really happy with that. I'm going to do that same thing, but I'm going to bring it even further right in here. And then I'll go back to a point. And I'm not doing a belly carve to speak of. I just want to rake this down a little bit so it's not so hard edged right there. So soft, a little bit thicker, wide here, back to a point. We're just thinning that edge out right there. It makes it sit more comfortable on the body. I wanted to tell you guys before we go any further, I made a small error on this build. It's not going to have any impact on the tone. It's not going to have any impact on the quality whatsoever on this guitar. It's an aesthetics thing, but I want to point it out to you guys so I'm not, I don't want to be ever perceived as trying to hide something from somebody. So everything else about this guitar I'm completely happy with up to this point, except for this one thing. The A string ferrule is about 1 millimeter out of place. If you guys can see that. I've got a way that I had trained myself, and I practiced on wood before I ever got to this build, to learn how to drill in string through ferrules. I did not use my normal method to do it this time. I've got those Maximum Guitar Works templates now. They've got these holes marked in them that you can just punch. It's not the template's fault either. It's my fault for not paying attention and doing this differently than a tried and true method that I had used before that I know works. The way I normally do this is I would take the Incra, line up my 0 here and my 0 here on the center line, on the body, and draw a line where I wanted my string through ferrules perpendicular to that center line, and then mark out each individual string through ferrule on the back of this guitar spaced the way it needs to be based on the bridge you're using. And then I would drill through those holes from the back to the front. If I would have done that this time, I could have been off that 1 millimeter on my A string hole under the bridge. I could have easily fixed this under the bridge and you'd have never seen it. I've learned a valuable lesson from that, and I did not want to be accused by the person who wins this guitar of not revealing that there was a small mistake on it. So there you guys go. I hope that's not that big of a deal. The holes still line up. It's going to string up no problem. I'm trying to share with you guys how I would do that to correct that and not let that become a mistake in a future build. So that's what I'm talking about. Look, thank you so much for you guys taking the time out of your busy lives to come hang out with me, check out what I'm doing, subscribe to my channel. I want to share my enjoyment, my passion, and what this brings to my life. I want to share that with you guys, and hopefully someone else can become as inspired or can be inspired by doing this the way I am. So that's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm giving this guitar away. You know, it's not because I want to send this guitar out into the world and say, hey, look at what I can do. You know, this is not a look at me or a better than thing. This is a thank you so much for taking the time to subscribe to my channel and hang out with me on YouTube for a little while. That's what this is. I'm trying to give it my best effort, and I'm trying to accomplish what I am capable of accomplishing at the level I'm at right now, which is far from perfect, but it's way better than I was on guitar number 1. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm kind of wrapping that back around like that, and we're going to file all this down too. I just want to get this U cut in there first, and then we'll carve that. Oh, that is so much better. I can't believe how much better that feels already. I'm going to start ramping this down. First thing I'm going to do is cut this corner off of the shinto. I don't want to go too far. I just don't want that hard edge when you come up into the back of this thing. I may widen this bevel up just a little bit, bring this point down finer, and steepen this bevel up so it's got a little bit more of a drastic downslope to some of the shallower areas or some of the thinner lines. All in all, that's pretty much what we're looking at right now. So I'm going to flip this thing back over. I really dig that poplar showing. I want to soften this. So I'm just loading up a piece of 80 grit on my hard sanding block here. And then we're just going to start working on this. 80 grit should make pretty quick work of those file marks. And we're going to take the random orbit sander to this top. Once we get these bevels done, I don't like sanding the bevel with the random orbit. It's too easy to round that edge over. All right, you guys, so I pretty much just kept sanding around. I didn't figure you guys wanted to watch me sand all night. So here we are. I've got a nice little bevel right here. This is really comfortable. I sanded that neck pocket, or the back of the body, where the neck joins the body at. That's nice and rounded and smooth. All up in here is really nice. I've got a really deep bevel. You can see how deep that is right up in there. That's super comfortable. I've got a wide bevel cut around this side right here. A soft bevel all the way around. I've still got some final sanding to do, but we've got a small little bevel right here, soft bevel all the way around. Then I really love this part right here. I just think that is a sharp looking body. Here's the neck. I cleaned the fret slots out. I still have not put frets on this thing, but they're coming soon. Let's take a look at this thing with the neck in the pocket, and that neck fits really good. Here's the guitar. I think this is just badass, you guys. I really love this. Pretty much all I need to do now, I've got a few file marks left back here. I've got a little bit of chip out where I hit it with the file right here. We got to do the final sanding anyway. But as a sneak peek, I thought we'd wipe this body down with some naphtha and get kind of a look at what this body's going to look like when it's finished. That is a beautiful piece of, I mean, I know this is ultimately mahogany, but look at that, you guys. That is just something else. That is so lovely. Look at that. Beautiful. I love it. Let's wipe the back down as well. I've got a little dark spot in the poplar right there. That may sand away. Beautiful as well. Let's wet this thing down and wipe this fretboard down and check it out. Oh yeah. My goodness, you guys. Look at that. That tiger wood's got some like 3D effect to it. It's deep. I'm telling you, I knew it was going to do that. I am so happy that it is. So let's wipe this whole thing down. All right, you guys, so let's pan back up and let you guys check this out. That's what we're looking like. I think this top is completely complementary, and all these woods, nothing clashes. You know, even though I got like what? Poplar, canary, murado, padauk, and kaya. So 5 different woods on this guitar, and that's not counting the ash veneer strips and tiger wood. 6 different woods on this guitar, and none of them clash with each other. Oh my Lord, you guys, I'm just, you know, I can't believe I made this thing with my hands. I love it. I really do love it. All right, you guys, I think that's going to wrap us up for episode 11 here. I am loving this guitar. I really am. I cannot wait to give it to one of you guys, and I hope that whoever wins this guitar feels some of the passion and the heart and the soul that I've put into building this thing. We're not done yet. We've got a ways to go. In the next episode, we're just going to keep working. I'm going to try to get the neck fretted. We'll get that 12th inlay, the 12th fret inlay done. I'm just going to do a simple 1 dot right in the middle of the 12th fret, just to mark the 12th fret. I think that's classy. Every time I build a guitar, I feel myself getting better. I realize the mistakes I made on the last one, and I don't make those same mistakes on the next one. But you know, building a guitar is a learning experience. Every time you build one, and I've heard guys say building for over 20 years, that they're still learning things as they build. And I'm talking guys who build Strats and Tellies. They're still learning something every time they build a guitar. I have a feeling that if you ever quit learning, it won't be any fun anymore. So I don't think that'll ever happen. And I pay real close attention to the mistakes I make. And I try to make sure I don't repeat those same mistakes. And that's what will get you eventually to a point to where the mistakes you make will be either easier to fix or harder to spot. I think that comes down to what it really is. You know, mistakes are going to happen, you guys. It's not like we're running an assembly line here with all CNC cut parts that are perfect. You know, even though I don't subscribe to the perfect philosophy, there is no such thing. If I were wanting to duplicate one of my designs multiple times over and over, I wouldn't mind having a CNC for that. But when it comes right down to it, I really love scratch building by hand. I like touching the wood. I like the way it feels. I like the handwork involved. That's what turns me on about guitar building. So anyway, you guys keep coming back to the channel. We're going to just keep working on this guitar. As I said in the last video, I'm not going to continue to say what I'm going to get done in the next one because I have no idea. We'll just keep shooting. We'll keep working. And, you know, I'll stop the video when I feel like we're at a stopping point. The next things I have to do on here are going to be processes that happen in succession. And I think I can put these next processes in a way on the next video to kind of help teach you guys that are getting into guitar building a few things. So I'm trying to break it up that way so it becomes a learning experience as much as it is you guys watching, you know, one of you guys watching your guitar be made. So tell your buddies about Sweet Tea Guitars. Tell them to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. You guys don't forget to hit the notification so you can find out when I post my next video. And until the next video, you guys, peace and love.